So those of you who are aware, by now the IGN Game of the Year Awards are out. And you may notice that amongst the winners, you're not going to see a lot of Fallout 4.
Some nominations.
Nominations everywhere.
A lot of runner-ups, too.
A lot of runner-ups, but winners. And I think that that bears a discussion for a moment. A discussion that I actually think is kind of a positive thing that we should talk about. And that's about how really wonderful pieces of art are not always award winners, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they.
That means you, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Huh?
That means you, Leonardo.
Finally
got a Golden Globe.
Does that mean that Fallout 4 is the Leonardo DiCaprio of games?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's for us, I guess.
It's the first 15 years of Steven Spielberg's career. It's Leonardo DiCaprio. But I want to talk about that for a second and ask you guys. We've all very much enjoyed this game, or we wouldn't be here right now doing a show about it that's been on for like 3 months. But what do you think about how Fallout relates to the criterion of awards?
So we were talking about earlier how Fallout has this weird part where it doesn't really fit in one category best. Like if we're doing like individual awards for genre or even platform awards, because it is everywhere. So a lot of times platform awards sometimes go, not always, but to specific games that you can't get anywhere else, like Undertale on PC.
Yeah.
Fallout is probably the best experience on PC, yet, it had a different contender that, you couldn't find anywhere else. Also, had this amazing presence there as well.
Yeah.
So it's just hard because it's like almost like a little, I don't know how to say it. It's just...
Well, I
it's
think
spread everywhere.
I think part of it too has to do with the fact, and I'll say Fallout 4 was my personal pick for Game of the Year, and Witcher 3 was number 2 for me. So I mean, I'm not upset by the results at all because they're both great games. But I think it's one of those cases too where Fallout 4, while it did expand upon what Fallout 3 did. I think a lot of the expansion, like the settlement stuff, is not fully realized. I think once we see the next iteration and what they can really do there, we'll see how they can really diverge upon what Fallout 3 was built off of in New Vegas. So I feel like there was maybe huge game, a lot to do, but maybe people seeing a lot of the same kind of gameplay and same kind of mechanics and same things they're kind of used to from Fallout. And I think that had quite a bit to do with it. Because to me, Witcher 3 was a big departure from Witcher 2. Like it was just big open world, expanded over what Witcher 2 did. And I think that's one of the reasons why it was just such a, it was a departure. It was something new and different for that franchise, whereas Fallout was very similar with new things added that maybe aren't fully realized.
Right. It's like it excels generally, but has a hard time being specialized in one thing.
Yeah.
It's not the best shooter. It's not the best RPG, but it has all these really fantastic things about it.
I think it's worth pointing out that you can have a game that you really enjoy, that's really popular and really fun, but it doesn't have to also be your critically acclaimed game of the whatever. It can just be a really fun game to play, and it doesn't need to be perfect. But there might be another game that's actually, this one it hits more marks than the game I like, but I recognize that, and so I recognize that I enjoy Fallout. I enjoy going back to it. I enjoy exploring it. But I think on a critical level and like reviewing it and what it does and what it doesn't do, there's too many little things that kind of irked me. Whereas another game, I was like, you know what? I had a lot less problems with this. So I may not be playing the other game as much, but I do think it's a little bit better.
It is the game I played the most in 2015.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, anybody who says
hours.
Fallout 4 is the game of the year, I'm not going to argue hard with.
I played Dota
we
most.
all had, but I think that just because something doesn't win an award, first off, there's several things to consider. First, only one game can win any particular award. And the fact is, this has been a strong year for video games. Fallout 4, by its review score, its review content, was one of the best games of 2015 in the eyes of the people at IGN. But awards, by their very nature, tend to be, for convenience's sake, the same way that we talk about games in genres, not because genres are real things. Genres are kind of made-up distinctions we create to help us classify things. We need stuff like that in life. We need a way to talk about different kinds of things, to organize them and sort them, especially for awards. Comedies and dramas. What makes a comedy or a drama? There are no definite criteria. There are just guidelines. It's the same way for these action games versus adventure games versus role-playing games. Those lines blur a lot.
It's like anything's a role-playing game.
Exactly.
Now, right?
Exactly.
No,
So when you
RPGs.
look at Fallout, it tends to span many genres, and therefore it's sometimes hard to figure out when it's up against a more dedicated game of this kind or more. You talked about specialization. I think I'm just reiterating what you said there, Brendan. That doesn't mean it's the inferior game. A great general experience is like a great general practitioner. He's never going to win any prizes in surgery, but he keeps your family alive year after year.
I was going to say, actually, I mean, I think that's where we're getting with games, period. Anyway, we're getting away from, well, at least for these big, massive, studio games, even though actually Fallout 4 team was relatively small in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about big AAA game production. But you're seeing, that blending of genres because they're not just focusing on just one thing that you're doing or specializing in just one thing. It is a big overall, large experience where you can do a lot of things, right? They want to make it as much like a real living, breathing world. And because of that, like you do have a lot of blurred lines in what you're doing in that because you can do a lot of different things just like you can in the real world.
Yeah. And again, with art, sometimes the best things get great reviews and don't win all the awards. I think about The Shawshank Redemption or Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
The way those were, these are movies that are undeniably classics.
Lord of the Rings quite a bit.
The first two Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
Lord, yeah, exactly.
I think it's worth pointing out from what I've seen since the video game awards, X on Spike and whatever throughout now. When stuff wins, like there's always backlash by some people who are like, oh, this should have won, and you don't want to be the guy who's ragging on another game for winning because someone else liked it. Don't be that guy. It's not funny. It's just like if you like something, that's great. If it didn't win the award, it won the award for you. You gave it the award. You should be happy for that. And the developers should be happy for that. If you say, this game was my game, I liked it, that should be good enough.
Well said. I like that. Also, just for fun, Tal, you said your personal game of the year, Fallout 4?
Was Fallout 4, yeah.
Fallout 4. Brennan.
Witcher 3.
Witcher 3? Miranda.
Undertale. But on our list, Fallout 4.
On your list, Fallout 4. And me, Mario Maker. So there we go.